Hello. It is a nice day today. Yesterday we went to the beach. It was wonderful. I got sunburned even. But my self-made sun lotion prevented too much redness and too much radiation coming into my cells. So this is very, very excellent. Zinc, plant butter, olive oil, carrier oil, and I would not use essential oils because they aggravate sunlight coming in. So that, as you know, volatile oils can actually channel the sunlight in even stronger. So that's why we don't want to put volatile oils or any kind of essential oil, or most essential oils, not put that into a sun lotion cream or something that we make ourselves. So that should be completely free from scents or from additional scents. So it has its own scent already, and it smells very, very good. It's very awesome. So I wanted to make a video with Papa Dog. He got into my seat. Yes, you are gorgeous. So I don't know if that shows, but yes, he's a Papa Dog. You are gorgeous. I don't think it picks it up because my camera is not very light flexible. So if I take this camera here to the beach and the sun shines, it will be the picture will be completely blank and white because it will be so completely overlighted. And when it's too dark, then it doesn't pick up the contours either. So it has to be somewhat in between. And so I wanted to talk about Eric Jacobs' haters one more time, and people in general who are taking offense to when people censored people's comments in the past. Before we had the AI, now we have the AI that completely cleans out all the negative and mean and hostile and just plain simply abusive comments. They're all deleted now by the AI, by the machine, which is amazing first fruits of AI development. But before that, I saw their comments when Eric erased some of their comments, then they will say, this is censorship, we don't have freedom of speech. My message to them, and if they are really upset now with the AI completely canceling all the abusive comments, if you are complaining and saying that this is a violation of your freedom of speech, or this is a breach of civil rights, or whatever you will come up with and complain and think that you should be allowed to write abusive comments, my message to that is, that's not freedom of speech. To have freedom to abuse and hurt someone else, okay? That is not freedom of speech at all. That's just plain and simply common sense protectiveness, setting up boundaries, protecting people. You know how many people have committed suicide because of abusive comments? Okay. Think about that. Haters out there, think about that. Maybe you wanted that to happen. And then when you're not allowed to write these comments anymore and hurt these people, and people are protected now and they don't have the need to commit suicide, then you feel like you are violated in your rights to hurt someone else. That's like a psychopath. And I've seen these people on the internet too. There are psychopaths who petition for psychopaths to continue to do their psychopathic acts. Okay, it's true, those people are out there. I mean, it takes some real twistedness of mind to come to the conclusion that you should have your rights to abuse other people. Okay. So that's why I feel a strong urge to set the record straight on this kind of stuff, because nobody has the right to write an abusive, hurtful thing to someone else, or to hurt someone physically, or to play a trick on someone to hurt someone, or whatever, set a leg, so for someone to fall or something like this, in whatever form people are trying to sabotage other people out of their hate and jealousy and unempowerment. Okay, these kind of acts, I was talking about Bob on the Spirit channel earlier about this. These kind of acts of hate and all of this, they come from the ego. Okay, and I said that to Emily earlier on Facebook, we are not helping these people by holding the other cheek. We aren't helping these people either if we do an exorcism on those people. Okay, and exorcism, that's something, that's a belief system that comes from the Christian belief systems, that comes from the Christian history of coming to some strange misconceptions about things. Hurting someone does not help that person who hurt someone else. If I hurt that person who hurts others, that isn't bringing justice. As they always rightfully said, two wrongs don't cancel out one wrong. Two wrongs don't make it better. You don't help the situation by beating someone or by punishing someone. And also we need to pay attention to our language. The world penal code or penalty system, death penalty or something like this. We need to get the word penalty out of it. So yeah, I personally am a very radical brain. I personally believe in death sentences. I believe in euthanasia. Okay, this is how I see it. I believe euthanasia means good death. That means even if someone has tortured living beings, animals or people, I don't believe in eye for an eye. There are other people who believe in eye for an eye. There's someone who believes in 10 eyes for one eye, okay? And I love that person too. It's just not my personal opinion. So, and I explained to you why, and it's not because I'm a Buddhist, because I'm not a Buddhist, but I did learn of value, very, very, very precious, valuable things from some Buddhists, in particular from Gautama Buddha / Jiddu Krishnamurti. So, you don't help someone, you just don't help someone by penalizing that person or by retribution or revenge. That doesn't help the situation. That just makes the situation worse and worse and worse and worse. We've been through this so many times in human history. We should know by now that penalizing and revenge and retribution does not work. It doesn't work, it makes it worse. So, and exorcism, that's an archaic belief system, and it just causes severe trauma in people. I mean, it depends what you understand under exorcism. It really depends on what your definition of that type of act is. If your definition of exorcism is to love someone to health, okay, I'm taking this person and I'm loving him until he's healed. Okay, then, but I don't call that exorcism. I call that true energy healing. Exorcism is, it already includes, it implies violence. The word itself. Just look at the word exorcism. Ex means out, get something out, chase something out, and schism, I think, comes from the word scissor or scissorer or sizzle or whatever. Scissors. I don't know. I have to look this up actually, but I guess it comes from cutting something out, almost like like in an emergency room, a physician, a surgeon cutting out the C word, tumors or whatever, and I have the same problem with that in an emergency room or in an operating room as I have with an exorcism. I have the same problem because it both has the same, it is made out of the same thing, basically. It's in a different context. Both of it cuts something out, chases something out, tries to, with force, get something out. Okay. What happens when you operate out a tumor and it is a malignant one? I saw a very enlightening film on this on PBS. That's why PBS is so good for you. It gets the real information into the gray matter. And that's why the Christian church and the right wingers, that's why they bash PBS, because, and now PBS has been taken over by the corporate agenda anyway. But in the past, we saw that, when was it, like 2002 or something, that I saw that on TV when I was still watching TV. I don't watch TV anymore. But I watched this really, really interesting documentary film on metastases. And there's this amazing surgeon, a medical doctor, who was, he was also a professor teaching medicine. I hope he wasn't doing training tests on live animals. That's all I can hope for. But anyway, in his free time, he attended a lesson because he just wanted to relax, sit somewhere and relax in the meantime between his work. And there was a lady giving a speech on, and it was in molecular biology, and suddenly he had this epiphany, he had this insight into, yeah, I'm talking to my tablet, into into what exactly happens with malignant tumors and what they do in the body. Those are entities, those are actually aware things that, aware mechanisms that are there for their own purpose, that are there for their own proliferation. It just happened to evolve that way. It's evolution. There's something that evolved. And these tumors, they usually consist of a form of mold. Cancer is a form of mold. It is a mushroom, basically. It's a mold. It's not made out of your DNA. It's something else. There's all kinds of things in our bodies that are not made out of our own DNA. But those are called symbiotic organisms. They work in symbiosis, they work in synchronicity within our complex beingness, within our mothership that we are. So when our bodies are overwhelmed, when our immune system is overwhelmed, then other pathogens can come in or, start to develop without being detected. And I heard that there are also things that can mutate and evolve within our systems that have not come from outside, that are actually sort of like they are cell mutations. And I believe that cancer is one of those things. It's a mushroom, it's a fungus, it's a mold that that has evolved through cell mutation. That happens through massive amounts of radiation, of course. Yeah. That can turn any kind of cell, whether it's a symbiotic cell or one of our own cells, into a fungus type of existence. And then that starts to grow, and most of them are not vicious, but the ones that are vicious are the ones that proliferate on a very massive scale, that just grow very, very rapidly. And because of that, they do harm to the surrounding environment, of course. They squeeze nerves, they can even block out arteries and the blood flow, and so on. It can cause there's all kinds of different forms, of course. But what this guy realized is that when you cut out a main tumor that is malignant, it actually sends out a message. It sends out a chemical into the entire body. When you take a biopsy of it, when you poke into it, it sends out that message, and when you cut it out, it sends out that message. It sends that message out when it feels threatened. This is absolutely fascinating. This is fascinating stuff, because that's that's almost a form of intelligence going on there. And what happens then is that these chemicals are actually they are messenger chemicals. They are messaging dormant cancer cells in the body, and they tell those dormant cancer cells to start growing. So that's why cutting out a tumor does not work. Okay, you do something by force, it does not work. It backlashes on you. And we've seen it numerous times. But the reason why this isn't taught in school biology, and the reason why this is not taught in any kind of, usually not in schools, it's probably not taught in medical school now either. So it's probably really marginalized, it's been silenced. And guess why that is? Because there's a whole industry made from the C word. The C word has opened doors for business, on your cost, on your animals' cost. So if I tell this to a veterinarian, they will shut me up. They will say, "Shut up, I don't want to hear it. Go away, you don't know what you're talking about." But obviously I saw this makes a whole lot of sense. This was a scientific report. And so people need to know that cutting out a tumor is not working, even in these early stages. This is all bullshit, this early detection and all of it's complete bullshit. I lost a friend because they cut her tumor out of her breast. Okay. So, and that was my best friend, Birgit. And I will never forget this, and I will miss her for the rest of my life. Okay. And that's all I can say to you, don't believe the scammers. And they come in all forms and on all authority levels. The cancer treatment is a scam of epic proportions. And this is a fact. I'm not pulling this out of my ass or something, This is a real fact, and you better take this into consideration when it comes to your loved ones, your animals, or your children, or your family members, or your friends. So, I tried to talk Birgit out of this decision to go to the doctor. I tried my very best. I tried the best I could, but she wouldn't listen to me. I said, Birgit, your body has the power to heal itself. And she said, well, if I don't go to the doctor, should I let myself die then? She didn't even see this. The question already implied this total panic. And it implied that she had absolutely no trust and faith in herself or in her own body, in that precious mothership that she was. She had no trust into it, and that's also because of total psychological unempowerment. She's always been with men who suppressed her and who took advantage of her and all of this, and that eventually led to her development of this illness. And she didn't say no, and that all ties in what I'm trying to say in this video. It all ties in with one another. Okay? You have to stand up for yourself. You have to set boundaries. You have to set healthy boundaries. It doesn't necessarily have to be done in rituals. It can be done in rituals, but then it is, again, rituals or OCD, rituals or mental illness. I do it myself sometimes. I was talking to someone on YouTube about this, that we do rituals, and it is one form of protecting ourselves, and there's much power in belief, and then there are people who are doing rituals out of a religion, whether it is Wicca or Buddhism or Hinduism or whatever, doing a puja, lighting an incense. I do that sometimes. I write an 8 into the room, and I say, all of you entities go within yourselves, because you cannot get anything from someone else. Those are rituals. I call all of this mental illness, but if we weren't mentally ill, we wouldn't have to do any of these things in the first place. Then we would be so grounded already. And I don't even know if those rituals actually work. I think they do. I think there is much power. So this whole thing is much more complex than anyone can possibly imagine, than any scientist or any religious person, particularly the religious people. They don't know what's going on. They are being played with. It's very sad. That's why I make these videos. Or any kind of pan-psychist also, I mean, they get it more, they see more of it, more of that infinite spectrum, and it really is infinite, what's going on around us, within ourselves, and so on. The kind of energies that are dancing with one another, that are co-creating, or that are fighting, or the ego energy is such a strong thing of resistance. The ego energy is so stubborn, and so vengeful often. And that's what it really is. It's not demons, it's people's ego energies, and they can become bardo. They can become in between the worlds. They can, and that's what Jiddu said, when the person hasn't made peace with this at the end of their lives, when they haven't forgiven someone, when they haven't finally understood the other person that they had a problem with, or when they haven't resolved it within themselves or forgiven themselves, or are still clinging to something, possessions or title or this or that, And there are so many people out there who do this. But when the body does give up at some point, because the body is mortal and can't cope with this tremendous onslaught of stress that is constantly happening in people, particularly because of mental illness and ego that causes that stress. We would live much longer if we didn't have the ego. So because of all of this, people will eventually die, and they haven't resolved the stuff. And then that ego energy goes either back to the stream of sorrow, which adds again to it, makes it snowball, makes it rise again, instead of making it gradually working it off. That's what we're hoping to do, that we're dissolving the stream of sorrow so that no new souls can spring out of that. And so we can finally bring this to a peaceful resolution. That's my end goal for existence, at least. And that's also why I don't contribute to bringing new souls into the world, into existence, into a physical existence, because it's just extreme suffering. It's very irresponsible to put someone into this world because they suffer, and also it just causes yet more souls coming into existence that might come, or most likely come, 95% likelihood come from the stream of sorrow, and that are making your lives miserable and everyone else's lives and their own lives, and they're just existence of misery. Okay, and we want to dissolve this. And we're not helping these existences of misery. I call them the stagnator souls, particularly when they're completely fresh and new from the stream of sorrow. Then they don't know what's going on. They immediately gravitate to religion because they need crutches. They feel like they can't stand on their own legs, so they have to go into a religion. And the newer the soul, the more violent the religion is that they flock to. So this all needs to be understood, okay? And there's no shaming in it, there's no judgment in it. It just is. And we need to dissolve this within ourselves, possibly in this lifetime that we are in right now, because we don't want to put it again, we don't want to put our mental depths back into the world. Okay, that's kind of like how we can describe it. And also, if they don't come into existence, if we put our mental depths back into existence, into reality, or into infinity, then it will be there, and it might even stay within the worlds. We might not, our soul, our ego energy might be lingering. The Jehovah's Witnesses had an idea about this, but then again, for them it becomes just an idea. It's an idea, and it becomes a threat, and then it's back in that same cycle of violence and threat. So if any of this, what I'm saying, is even understood correctly, I seriously doubt it. So there's no threat in it. There is no threat. Listen to Suma Qinghai. She probably explains this much better than I do. So Supreme Master Qinghai is a Buddhist guru, but one of the kind ones, one of the good ones. She is a God-level soul. She is hated by the corporations, particularly the meat industry, because she teaches veganism for ethical reasons, and that's very rare for a guru to do. I don't know if there's any other religious-based guru who teaches veganism for ethical reasons. They usually teach that for some silly idea or religious reasons or some whatever, some real silly reasoning or whatever to please a god or whatever. But she says we do it for the animals, not for some fictitious idea. Okay? We do it actually for the animals because they're suffering. We want to eliminate suffering in the world. She really cares. She even picks up trash after other people, and she notices that there's a terrible energy, a very depressing, very down-pulling energy is attached to people's trash that they throw out. They can't even pick up their own trash. Those are the stagnator souls. They are so lost. They are so in so much suffering and agony and so aimless. I used to be very aimless in the past, so I can just imagine how it must be for a stagnator to be aimless. Yeah, that must be magnified by billions. This is really bad, and it was very bad for me when I was young to be aimless. So there were many years of aimlessness from 16 to, I would say, from 16 to at least 21 and 22, something like this. There was this unbelievable, like this feeling no future. I was also in the punk movement. This feeling of no future. It's what is the future gonna hold, and it's all for nothing or something. It's all in vain, or I was very lost. I had no idea about anything. I didn't know anything at that time. I hadn't read anything. It was, and whatever I did here didn't make any sense, which it really doesn't. So most of the stuff we're bombarded with makes no sense because it does come from stagnator souls. So that's why it is so incredibly important that we pay very close attention to what we are picking up in our environment, who we're listening to, who is saying things to us, who is telling us how to live or what to do, and why are they telling that, and where are they coming from. So if they're religious, they're most likely not a very evolved soul. So it's the very evolved souls that will know what I'm talking about, even if they are within a setting of religion. Because some of those souls are working within the settings of religion, whether they know it or not. Some of them are very unaware about it, but their energy works out of the soul development level that they are at. And so I've seen these people, this is quite amazing. And I know that these people will see me for who I am, regardless of the threats of their ministers and whatever that would warn them about me or something. They see who I am. They see that I'm not a threat. They see that I care. They see that I can be trusted. Because their souls see me. And when their souls see me, then they see me regardless of the lens of religion and fear-mongering and all of this. They see right through that lens. They wipe that away for an instant. And they look at me and they see, this woman cares, even though her worldview is what my religion is afraid of or whatever, But I see she cares. She's not a bad person or devil or whatever they're demon or whatever people have thrown at me, I had two friends, they wanted to do an exorcism on me, believe it or not. They were getting really excited, like they were drooling out of their mouths already, like emailing me, oh, you want to do we will do it. We will do an exorcism on you. And that other lady that didn't write, that didn't have a computer, I can just picture her like just waiting for that opportunity to send me to the gallows, like what she said to Paul when he was summoned to do jury duty. And she said, oh, I would go. You can send someone to the gallows. You know, that's a stagnator soul. That's the doing of a stagnator soul. The stagnator soul is so unempowered, they can't wait for an opportunity to execute someone or do harm to someone, and possibly within the legal setting, you know, because we have a whole bunch of idiocy as legal setting, you know, a whole bunch of laws that are created by stagnator souls. You know, most people are stagnator souls. I'm not judging. I'm just saying this is how it is. And if we want to heal this, we need to introspect. And a stagnator soul can also introspect. That's why I'm giving you some real valuable information on this. Okay. Instead of taking offense, you know, Johnny Bravo et al., all these people out there, you know, who were trying to hurt Eric Jacobs, you know, who's innocently traveling with his cat. And they are trying to hurt him because they have miserable lives themselves, and they see someone have a good time, someone who quit his miserable monstrous life, working for a corporation, paying most of that money to this is corporate slavery, paying most of that money that he makes to pay his apartment, and can never save anything. Just this miserable day-to-day, getting up, drinking his coffee, going to work, being exhausted, coming home, watching TV and falling into bed, and the same thing every day. And he was just tired of it, and he got himself a motorhome, and he moved in there with his cat Jax, and he wanted to see the country, you know, his own country. He hasn't even seen anything, so he wanted to see this before he gets too old, you know. So I don't know when he started, somewhere in his 20s, and he started to travel, and he made videos, didn't even expect to get many views, but he became very famous. Okay, Nomadic Fanatic is his channel, and my husband and I, we love Eric and his cat, and we love all these other peoples, all these other van dwellers, and all these other people who said enough is enough. I'm no longer doing corporate enslavement with myself, you know. I am living in my RV and traveling and so on. And my husband and I, with our former dog, we did the same thing for 3 years, just to see a bunch of things, to go to the hot springs, and also to know where to invest our money, which area to invest in, and so on. You know, we wanted to see the things, the areas. We wanted to live there before we buy something sight unseen. And that was a very good decision to make. It was hard, but I don't regret having done it, because I've made some mistakes along the way. I should have bought this better motorhome, you know, I should have bought the big rig instead of sticking to the Winnebago that leaked rain in and so on. But Paul fixed the roof, we got this all done, but probably had some mold exposure, which is always hard on the immune system, and so on. But Eric and all of these people, they made the right decision. There's even a lady who had agoraphobia, and she cured that by moving out of the apartment and moving into a van and traveling with her dog. So, and meeting people and going to natural places like hot springs, healing geothermal hot springs. I can imagine living for that. I can imagine moving back into a motorhome and just going to hot springs every day and talking to hippies every day and like-minded people. You know, I'm a hippie. I'm a clean hippie. You know, I don't do tattoos. I don't smoke anything. I don't take any drugs. I'm a very Puritan person, but I'm a hippie nevertheless. And I just love meeting hippies, and I love meeting people who have something to say. You know, people who question authority, people who love nature, love animals. And so I can imagine this. And Eric, you know, bringing this to the attention of people, you know, kind of like showing with his own example. You're living a miserable life. Why do you do this to yourself? You have another option. Even if you have no money, you have another option. You can put the little bit that you have, you can shift that into a different situation. You can get a van, you can get a motorhome, you can go get out of this expensive apartment. So many people have done it, and they don't regret it. You know, it is rough too. It has all of it has it's all of it is school. You know, it's learning ground for our minds and souls. So, but valuable school. You know, what do we learn if we stay in this stuck in the monotonous situation? Then we don't learn anything. But anyway, Johnny Bravo and the haters, they they are so influenced by Hollywood, by, you know, Hollywood movies that basically portray a high-end living standard as the winner, as this is what you need to achieve. And if you don't achieve it, then they will make these people feel like a loser. But instead of questioning this message that comes from Hollywood and from all these corporate movies out there that are all serving the corporate agenda, by the way. Don't think for a second that any of these films are just made art for art's sakes. They all have these little backdoor messages for the corporations snuck into it, yeah, and invisibly, so that the average consumer doesn't notice it. So Johnny Bravo and all these people, they don't see that they're being played with by the very people they cater to, and they don't see that they actually are given something wholesome by the very people they hate. So what is at play here? Obviously, it is the ego in those people. The ego, the stagnator ego, the stagnator soul that is very confused, okay? And that's why I bring these videos here, not to shame you and not to put you, not to subordinate you or something, but to give you a very clear view, overview on what is happening, okay? And my message to you haters is, okay, it is not freedom of speech to be allowed to abuse someone else. And the very people you hate are the very ones you should really listen to. You should watch. You should watch with an open mind. And, you know, if Eric has a stroller for his cat and you call him gay, or, you know, hey, this is the gayest thing, or what, and also this gay shaming type of thing. Yeah. This is so right-wing stupid. Yeah. So you need to come to your senses. Maybe some of you are gay, okay? So come out of the closet. You embrace that what you are. Embrace what you have in this lifetime, you know. If you are gay, then say yes to it. And don't shame someone else because of your own fear of it, of who you really are, or because, you know, you are striving to be like Vin Diesel, because this is presented to you as, now this is how you are supposed to be, this badass big muscular guy who drives race cars, who drives these Corvettes Stingrays and Ferraris and so on. And that's what you want to have. But that is not good. That's not serving you. I'm not saying not to have all of this, but that is not something to strive for. That's not something to desire, to krage, to want, to grasp for. That's if you do this, you haven't understood any of this. Yeah. So you haven't understood that Eric is showing you the real path. It doesn't mean that I'm negating all of the luxuries. But what I'm trying to say is that the real message is that we need to come to our own senses, and that we need to stop idolizing anyone, whether it's a guru, politician, or movie star status and status symbols and so on. We need to come to our own senses, and we need to understand where we are at any given situation. You can all turn your lives around, but you can't do it if you want to jump from A to Z. You have to first make B your goal, okay? You have to look at B to move forward. And it's not bad. It's not shameful, okay? The very first thing, for someone who is not rich, who doesn't have wealthy parents and so on, is when you're working for a corporation that's no good anyway, and it's bleak and all of this. The very first step is make B your goal. And B will be to move out of the apartment and into a van or motorhome, okay? And then work with that. Focus on. Don't sit in front of the TV and keep idolizing and worshiping your idols and feeling sorry for yourselves that you don't have that lifestyle. You need to look at your own lives, and you need to become fully responsible for your own actions and for whatever happens to you. Even when someone is mean to you, you need to go into yourselves. You can't be expecting other people to make your life. Even some of these people occasionally get like a lawsuit or some affirmative, I don't know, some kind of contingency lawsuit, and they happen to get couple of millions of dollars. If that is a stagnator soul, a new soul, they will squander that money in 1 year and will be exactly how they started out with. They will be at the same starting point back again, thrown back with all force of the elements of nature, of existence, will throw them back there. And the reason why is because they haven't mastered anything internally. They have not mastered their lives, their mindsets, their mental states. Listen to Tony Robbins. He has a lot to say about all of this, okay? So it has to do with your internal state of mind. It has to do with how you value things. If you feel unempowered, if you hate yourself, if you don't take any responsibility for anything, then life will throw you exactly back where you came from originally, before the lawsuit or before you became famous or whatever. Some people become famous and they're not ready for it yet. And then it doesn't take very long until they fall all the way back down. And that's a hard crash. I don't wish that on anyone. I've seen people crashing. I've seen a very, very wealthy man in Germany crash. And he crashed so hard that he committed suicide. Because he ended up in a social housing apartment. And he was a multi-billionaire before. He gambled the money away. So anyone who gambles is a stagnator. So this is not a judgment. This is just where you're at. This is very valuable information for you, because if you are a stagnator, so which most people are, I think 95% of humans are, and within the stagnator, these are just loose levels that I have described. I've described 8 levels, but within each level is another whole range of soul development. So, sub spokes, so to speak. So that you can reach, you can get from one, like little steps that you make within each. And it's a long and winding process within each of these levels to make it to the threshold to come to the next level. So it's an entire gradual learning and growing process. And we need to give this lifetime a chance to grow. And that's why if you waste your lives away, then you will just keep coming back and coming back and coming back again in basically the same situation, just with a different shape. It's a different situation, but it's the same situation. You will keep coming back until you are ready to learn, until you're ready to listen. So the next level is student of life. That's when the people are more receptive. That's when they go, it's true. I should have listened before. But that's when they are finally ready, when they are able to see, when they are no longer pointing the finger and saying, they're still doing it to some degree, but there are the first awakenings happening. So, and I just don't know. I don't know how to reach people, but what I'm telling you is the truth. Don't make this yet into another idea. Just use this for yourself and inquire for yourselves and find out whether what I'm saying is actually true. You have to find out for yourselves, okay? Only you can explore and find out, and then remember what I said, and don't be careful then. Don't use what I say as a sort of as a lifeguard, so you don't fall into these miserable pitfalls along the way. Okay, you guys take care. Bye bye.